Hello everyone, my name is Nathan and welcome to Hale. So if you weren't aware, we're kind of in a lockdown right now. Idaho has been quarantined for at least 21 days, so that goes until April 15th, but I'm pretty sure that it will go even longer than that. So with this quarantine, I wanted to just throw out a few movie suggestions that I would recommend you guys watch with this extra amount of time you have. Now, I could easily talk about movies that are my personal favorites of all time, but instead of that, I wanted to focus on movies that don't get as much recognition. They don't make my top 25, but they're movies that I really like and I want more people to see them. Got 11 movies for you here today. There's no order in this list except for the first one. The first one I want to share is probably the most fitting for our situation, and that is 10 Cloverfield Lane. I bet you were expecting Contagion. I'm not going to suggest that movie because I actually don't like that movie at all. 10 Cloverfield Lane is a fitting movie for the reason of the movie's plot. Basically, Michelle, she's in a car crash, she wakes up in a bunker. She has no idea where she is, but she's told that the air outside has been contaminated, so she must stay inside. And there's a whole bunch more to that plot that I'm not going to include. This is a movie that stars John Goodman, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and John Gallagher Jr. If you don't like scary movies, that's fine. It's not very scary in my opinion. It's just thrilling. It's just one of those movies that keeps you at the edge of your seat as you're watching it, and I think it needs to be seen more. I really like this movie. The next movie is Cinderella Man, directed by Ron Howard. This is a movie that I saw for the first time when I was in junior high. Watched it in my history class because it takes place during the Great Depression era of times. Now, I don't know too many movies that take place during this era of history. And so for one, that's one reason I like Cinderella Man. But I also like Cinderella Man for how inspiring it is. And so if you're looking for an inspiring movie to watch during your quarantine, then this is definitely the one to watch. Follows Jim Braddock. He's a boxer. He was at the top of his game, but with the Great Depression hitting everyone, it highly affects his career, as it does everyone's career. And it brings him way down, and just like Cinderella, it's about him getting back on top again. It stars Russell Crowe. It's my favorite Russell Crowe film, and it's my favorite Ron Howard film. Really, all the performances in this movie are just amazing. I think Russell Crowe would have been nominated for an Oscar, but I think he wasn't because he had just been nominated for A Beautiful Mind and Gladiator. And so I feel like the Academy was probably like, let's give Russell Crowe a little break here. This next film is a foreign film. And so to all you who have been avoiding foreign films, now's the time to get into them. This movie is called Akira. It is in the Criterion Collection, which is just a collection of movies that receive large restorations and they receive a ton of bonus features. Basically, if you like movies, you should be into the Criterion Collection. Akira itself means to live. The movie follows a man who's been working the same job for years, very rote work, nothing special about it, and one day he finds out he has cancer. And the movie is about what he does with that knowledge and what life truly is to him. There are some scenes in this movie that are some of my favorite scenes of all time. So definitely give it a watch. The next one is Inside Llewyn Davis. Now, I watch R-rated films filtered. Everyone knows that by now. If you don't, then there it is. So I watched it filtered through VidAngel. But whatever means that you prefer watching it, watch this movie. The music is absolutely incredible. This movie made me like folk music a lot more, which I didn't really see happening. It stars Oscar Isaac. He's just a guy who's trying to make it big. I believe it takes place in the 60s, around that time frame. He's homeless, always staying at people's houses, just trying to find a place to stay, trying to get big in the folk music industry. With that plot, it doesn't sound like that great of a movie, but it just somehow is. It's directed by the Coen brothers, and it's my personal favorite Coen brothers film. But it's a movie that I watched last summer, and then I watched it again a month later because it was on my mind so much. And so I just really enjoyed it, and if you're looking for a movie with a lot of symbolism in it, then I would watch Inside Llewyn Davis. Leave No Trace came out in 2018. It was a very underrated film. It's from the same director as Winter's Bone with Jennifer Lawrence, and it was how I discovered Thomasin McKenzie. If you don't know who Thomasin McKenzie is, she was the one who played the Jewish girl in Jojo Rabbit. She's probably my favorite young actress working today, and so if you liked her performance in Jojo Rabbit, please give Leave No Trace a watch. She's arguably even better in that movie. It just follows a father and a daughter. They're living in the forest. They're discovered that they're living in the forest, and they're basically taken into custody because they're not allowed to be living in a national park. And the movie is about the daughter's commitment to her father, and it's their bond together, how much they love each other. It's their struggle of adapting to normal human life. The Little Prince is a Netflix film that came out in 2015. It's a movie that to me is all about staying young forever. And while it's inevitable that we all grow up, I love movies that tug at our childhood heartstrings. It takes place with this girl who lives in a very organized society. Her whole entire future is planned. Her mom has her whole entire summer planned, her whole entire school year planned. And basically she meets her neighbor, who's a very carefree, fun guy, and he introduces her to the idea of stories and imagination. And from there, it's just a beautiful story that's told. And it's accompanied by an amazing score from Hans Zimmer, which I swear that man does no wrong. He is great in every score he composes. The Prestige is obviously directed by Christopher Nolan. I don't think I'm telling anyone about The Prestige for the first time. All of us should know about this movie, but if you don't, it's directed by Christopher Nolan. The reason I am recommending this movie specifically is because I feel like it's one of Nolan's movies that kind of gets forgotten with all of his other great movies. It's easy to forget how good this movie is, and I'm guilty of that. Maybe that's just me, but I hadn't seen it in a few years, and I watched it last month again for the first time in several years, and I just forgot how amazing the movie is. You have to watch carefully. That's literally one of the first lines in the movie. You have to watch the movie carefully and you'll pick up on the secrets that it has. And I feel like it's even better on a rewatch because you know the answer to the magic tricks. So it's just such a fun movie to watch, and Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman give such great performances. Gosh, I love this movie. Watch it if you haven't, and if you have seen it, I think it's due for a rewatch because it's great. Next up, we've got Primer, which is a very underrated film. I believe it's more of an indie film. This movie is all about time travel, and it introduces new concepts to time travel that you've never even thought of. This is probably the most confusing movie I've ever seen, and I've only seen it once. I have to mentally prepare myself for when I rewatch it. But when I did see it, I saw it with one of my friends, and we had to pause it every few minutes just to make sure we were following the plot correctly. But even then, I don't know if we were. There were still questions that I had, and it is just an insane movie. And so if you're looking for a mind-blowing movie, if you like those kind of movies that get you thinking, then please watch Primer, because it will get you thinking, it will have you theorizing and creating different scenarios. It is an insane movie, and it's not too long either. It's just kind of hard to follow. Next up is Searching from 2008. Now, what? From 2018 is what I meant to say. Only 10 years off. If I were to describe Searching, I would call it a beautiful thriller, which I feel like you normally don't come across movies that are described that way. It is about a man's daughter going missing, and it's him trying to discover where she has gone. But the catch is the whole movie takes place on a computer screen. Now, it sounds a little crazy, but they accomplish it, and they do really good at it. So good. I really like the score in this movie, and I just think that it's impressive that they were able to accomplish such a creative plot. Maybe not so much a creative plot because we've seen these kind of movies done before, but just a creative way of executing the plot. Searching works so well, and it was actually one of my favorite movies of 2018. Next up, we've got A Separation, which is another foreign language film, and so if you don't want to give Akira a try, give this one a try. A Separation is directed by, I believe it's pronounced Asghar Farhadi. He is honestly becoming one of my favorite movie directors working today. Every movie I've seen from him has been great. The movie follows a husband and a wife. They're simply trying to get a divorce, but the movie that pursues and the plot that unfolds before you is unexpected, and it's one of those movies that I was just glued to the screen the entire time, and I was so satisfied with the end product. And the acting in this movie and in all of Asghar Farhadi's films are out of the park. His films just have such great actors and such great performances in them. I feel like he's really good at making movies that have simple plots and then going deep with those simple plots. Please watch this movie. It's great. Song of the Sea is a movie that I've definitely talked about before on this channel. It is an animated film from 2014. Talks a lot about Irish folk tales, and I just think it's a beautiful story. It has beautiful animation, and there's a tight bond between a brother and a sister that grows as the movie progresses, and there's a certain lullaby that is sung in this movie that is beautiful. It is just so good. I love this movie. I've seen it twice now, but I plan on rewatching it plenty of more times in the years to come. So those are 11 movies, I think that's 11 movies, that I would recommend you watch during this quarantine if you're looking for movies to watch. If you're not looking for any movies to watch, then you just wasted 10 minutes of your life. I'm sorry. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.